I'm William Shatner. I've done a lot of things in my career, but this takes the cake. This is so cool. You, Joseph, today, it's all about you. You won the internet. Congratulations. It's exciting. It makes me want to celebrate. Makes me want to get up out of this chair. Makes me want to sing. Makes me want to dance. Makes me want to shout. Kick my heels up. Throw my hands up. Toss my head back. No, really, people should be shouting your name in the street.
Come on now. Sing
that song.
Joseph,
Sing it out loud.
Joseph.
I want to celebrate. Put it up in lights.
The internet belongs to you.
No one else deserves to be celebrated like you because you are the best.
Well, surprise, surprise, surprise. This is me, comedian George Wallace, the new Mr. Vegas. I'm here with you tonight. I'm famous. But let me tell you something. Your host tonight, Joseph Jaffe, he's not famous. He's not famous at all. But that's all we can do for you tonight. That's the best we can do. You know, Joseph is like Jon Stewart wannabe. He's like a Howard Stern wannabe. He is not famous, but he's your host, okay? Maybe he'll do good tonight. This is what you paid for. This is what you get. So, ladies and gentlemen, maybe you want to show him some love. Please welcome the not-so-famous Mr. Joseph Jaffe. Make some noise. Make some noise.
We are human, we are animals, we crave the ability to be we. I know it's called me undies. We undies might have sounded differently, right?
Is it a disco now?
Yeah, it's an after party, so it's now we go with the flash.
My goal in life is to be a laptop sticker.
Me too.
And despite the best ministrations of your wife, you still look ugly.
It's a great honor, Mr. Jaffe. It's always nice to be with you.
I'm so happy to be with you. I'm honored.
Thanks for doing this, too. It's a real service to the community.
What a great organization and a show that offers hope, optimism, creative solutions, entertainment.
Thank you for doing this, Joseph. It's your gift to the universe, and it's appreciated.
Very human, and I like that.
Look at you! You are insane!
How did I do that?
You're insane!
Welcome back to another episode of Joseph Jaffe is Not Famous. Today I'm boldly not famous because, I'm just, tickled pink. I'm so excited to have Doug Jones on the show. For those of you that do not watch Star Trek, are there any of you? Everyone has watched, will watch, is a part of it. We'll talk about it later, but I'll tell you, Star Trek has transcended. It really has transcended entertainment, storytelling, content. I've had CEOs on the show that have confessed, and it's not much of a confession. It's more just a proud admission of being a Trekkie. Star Trek has led the way in terms of promoting openness, equality, diversity, the ability for us to be able to see things as they should be, as opposed to sometimes lamenting the way they are, and led the way. Truly a pioneer and innovator, and so we'll be talking about that and other things. We may even get Doug Jones to do a little bit of Two Truths and a Lie, where what do they call it? Truth is stranger than fiction, because I was looking at some of his. One of the things is he cuts his own hair, and you saw my wife cutting my hair during COVID. So, listen, if it works for you, he's got enough hair on his head that it makes sense. Saru, on the other hand, not so much. But we'll be bringing him on shortly, as I've been doing in 2024. Just starting off with my why statement. This idea of why do I exist? Why do I do what I do? What motivates me? What is my passion, my cause, my purpose? And it really is actually just about helping people get unstuck. Because when you're stuck at home, when you're stuck in general today, so many people are stuck. Well, the best way to deal with being stuck is to get unstuck, to return to growth. And what do I mean by returning to growth? Well, what I mean by returning to growth is If you're not growing, then you're stagnating. And if you're stagnating, then you are essentially declining or even dying. But growing isn't always about, growing out in terms of girth. It isn't growing in terms of market share or profitability. Sometimes it's about growing up. Sometimes it's about realizing actually what's important in life. And that leads me to why I talk about and what is so important to me, my latest book, my 6th book, Forever Changed, How a Global Pandemic Changed my direction, my purpose, and my life. Because if you didn't change during this time, then you truly did waste an opportunity. Quantum superposition. Ironically, I talk about quantum superposition, talking about warp speed and so on and so forth. But the idea of quantum superposition is two things that are diametrically opposed can both be true at the same time. And in this particular case, this awful, terrible thing that happened to us, to mankind, to humankind, to womankind, to peoplekind, but at the same time, this catalyst for growth, this catalyst for self-discovery, and ultimately to reach our potential, what I would call our becoming. And so now it's time for our seated soliloquy. And yes, I'm definitely going to be, I'm going to try at some point and discuss other things, but it's hard for me, as a lifelong Trekkie, not to be able to be inspired by this moment and this opportunity. And so today is about live long and prosper. Of course, anyone who knows Star Trek would know that this goes all the way back to Spock. I actually saw Doug Jones, an image of him on the Google giving the sign. Maybe he'll show it to you a little bit later. But I actually wanted to attack this or discuss this from a different perspective. I have been fortunate enough to have 700 guests come through this virtual studio over the course of the last 4 years. I had Dr. Mario Martinez, who did this incredible study on healthy centenarians, being able to study individuals that are not only 100 years plus old or young, but healthy as well. So to me, living long is about a quantity. How many years old or young are you on this earth? But what about prospering? To me, that's the qualitative. What does it mean to prosper? How do we measure prosperity? How do we measure the ability to prosper? Is it monetary value? Is it our market capitalization? How do we determine what is a life well lived and a life well loved? I'm not saying I have the answers, any of the answers. I have ideas. I'm sure Doug has ideas too. But for me, I think it comes down to things like inspiring even one human being. I love the idea of being able to say, when we leave this planet, did we leave it in better shape than when we found it? Were we able to inspire? Did we create some kind of legacy? And that legacy isn't a Wikipedia page, although I would love one at some point. That's still my goal. Somebody creates a Wikipedia page for me. But how would they? Because I'm not famous. Maybe it just comes down to the fact that someone remembers you. They may not remember you by name, by face, but they remember you in spirit. They remember you in essence. They remember you in energy, in terms of helping accelerate them towards their goal, or maybe helping them course correct in order to be able to realize, quite frankly, their potential and help pay it forward and create their legacy. So to me, that is living long and prospering. It's not living long or prospering. It is the ability to find the balance between qualitative and quantitative, between being able to say we weren't just space invaders. Our time here was time well spent, and we were able to maximize the relationships and the opportunities to inspire to others. And now, someone who inspires me is my guest, Doug Jones. Doug Jones is a celebrated American actor renowned for his prowess in portraying non-human creatures through heavy makeup and visual effects. Born in Indianapolis, Indiana, Jones's career spans over 3 decades, featuring iconic roles in films like Pan's Labyrinth, Hellboy, and The Shape of Water. His ability to express emotion through layers of prosthetics has earned him critical acclaim. On television, he is best known for his role as Saru in Star Trek Discovery. Jones's performances are a testament to his unique blend of physicality and sensitivity. Please join me in welcoming Doug Jones to the show. Doug, welcome.
Thank you for having me. I do not think I can live up to that introduction, but I'll do my best. Thank you.
Well, I'm going to just add an air horn as well. So for those of you that are watching, you would have absolutely no idea that we had a little bit of a technical difficulty. And I thought to myself, one of the things that I've experienced in watching seasons after season after season of various Star Trek series is this idea of calm under fire. Something about the captain, of a starship where there is very little panic, or at least on the surface, very little panic. It's almost like the duck that is swimming, and the duck looks calm and cool and collected, and yet below, those feet are frantically pedaling as well. So there's a segue as well, which is, how do you stay calm under pressure and under situations of fear, Doug?
Me personally, I often don't, but playing Saru on Star Trek Discovery has helped me calm down. I think as when that character was introduced in season 1, it was done with the backstory of he was a prey species on his planet, living in fear constantly. So fear was a part of his chemical makeup, and but he still survived and thrived and made it through Starfleet Academy, is now a high-ranking officer on a starship. How did he do all that if he was born with fear as a part of his personality? So I think, well, okay, with my own personal anxieties in real life, fearing tomorrow, if I can't see what's coming, I'm terrified of it. If I open the mailbox and there's like official things in there that I need a response, I'm like, oh gosh, I'm going to fail at this. That's been me, the real me. So I kind of take my cue from Saru now. What would Saru do? He presses on. He pushes the fear aside and gets the task done, whatever it is. So. And something I learned too in season 2 of Star Trek Discovery, my threat ganglia got infected, and it became what I thought was going to be the end of my life, which was called Vihari. It's this kind of a phase of physicality that we Kelpians go through. Actually, we don't go through it. That's usually the end of our life, we think, because we've been taught on our planet, home planet of Kaminar, that when you get to Vihari, that's the end of your life. And our oppressors, the Ba'ul, did a mercy killing for us. So they would call us as we went through Vihari. And and now I'm on a starship away from my home planet of Kaminar, not under the Ba'ul's rule. And I'm the only Kelpian who's ever done this. So I'm going through Vihari and I think, okay, well, I know the history of this. I'm going to die now. So can someone do a mercy killing? I asked Michael Burnham to do that mercy killing for me. Before she gets to it, in our big emotional scene, my threat ganglia fall out on their own. And all of a sudden the fear is gone. It's like, what? And he didn't realize this, but he's actually going through puberty. And now he has his adolescence. he's becoming an adult and never knew that life for a Kelpian could go on this much, much longer than we ever thought. So the daily things that happen to Saru, the daily threats that are outside that front window of our bridge, nothing's changed. Everything's that's thrown at him is still coming at him, just like it always has. But his reaction to it now is fearless. The fear fell out when the threat ganglia fell out, and now he's living with confidence and courage that he never had before. So the circumstances haven't changed, but his reaction to them did. So I think, okay, that's a lesson for me as a person, that my circumstances, the world isn't going to change out there. It's still going to throw something at me every day. The mailbox is going to be full of things I have to deal with every day. So, but maybe I can go at it with a different attitude. I can get through this attitude. I've got support around me. I know what I'm doing. I have a history of making it this far, 63 years in my life without dying. Maybe I can do another day, you know. So yeah, I've learned a lot from Saru.
You know, you said a beautiful phrase there. You said the fear fell out.
Yeah.
I mean, quite literally, that's what happened. And I was thinking to myself, what a beautiful analogy for us humans. You know, this ability to almost shake the fear from you. You know, kind of dust yourself off. You know, I always try and find a quote for my guests. And today I was like, yeah, I could go out and find authors and speakers and Gandhi's big favorite of the show. But in this case, Saru, I had to look to Saru for these sound bites. And here is can we call them a Saruism? I may not have all the answers, but I do have one advantage. I'm not afraid. So the fear falls out. And when you lose the fear and when you're not afraid, is there, truly, is there anything that we can't accomplish? So this is a Saruism, if you will.
Is that an actual quote from Saru?
That is a quote from Saru. I have another one later for you as well.
I don't remember saying that, but I think it's great. Yeah, I'm not afraid. Yeah, that must have been shortly after he went through the transition. Yeah, I believe in real life. Someone pointed out to me that we make all of our decisions based in either fear or love,
Yes.
and so I was a notorious people pleaser. I wanted everyone to like me, and if they didn't, then it was a very unsuccessful day if I didn't come away with having won everyone over in any situation. And so even like being invited to a party that you really don't know you want to go to, but you go out of fear that like they'll never ask me again, or there's people there I should probably meet, and if I don't, then I'll lose out. That fear is what got me to go out and do things. And now it's like if I go places and do things and meet people because I love the idea, I love the opportunity that's ahead, I love the people I'm going to be seeing. And so that's made life so much more fulfilling and meaningful to act out of love and react out of love instead of fear.
I want to just take this one step further before we move on. And by the way, I don't, I never have show notes coming into this other than just wanting to have a conversation with another human being and learn something from them in the process. But I was thinking of fear and love for a second, and I was thinking how much of the fear versus love, if we look at it as binary, as either or, how much of it is fear and loathing, but fear and love for ourselves or of ourselves versus fear of other people or love for other people. So it's almost, I was just trying to it's almost like a matrix. That's me as a consultant now, right? There's fear and love, and there's other people and yourself. And clearly what we want to get to is a point of, I guess, empathy, love for people, love for ourselves, and eliminate, fear of other people or from other people, and fear of the unknown for ourselves. How do you see your role in this versus other people? Because so much of this is interaction with other people.
Yeah. Well, even my interactions with other people were very self-absorbed for me. Fear of not being enough, fear of failing in front of other people while they're watching me. Yeah, and as an actor, boy, did I pick the wrong career. Because every time I get a new role that I'm going to be playing on film, my first thought I have to fight back is, this is where I'm going to fail. This is the project or the role that's going to bring me down. This is the one where people will finally find out that I can't act. I'm going to prove it when I fail on film, on camera, in front of the world. That's I have to fight that on every job I get. So it's very self-absorbed and it's so silly. But the older I get, the less me I think about, and I get to and what's helped with that scenario is that I get a lot of feedback from the audience that watches the things that I've been in. And when I hear stories about how something I've done has touched them, or touch their lives or help them get through a hard time, whether it's a health issue. They watched something I was in while they were in the hospital, or they watched something with a loved one who's now departed this world. And that every time they watch that movie or TV show, it reminds them of their loved one, and it gives them comfort in some way. I hear stories like that constantly. And that has validated the whole reason for being an actor for me, is if the work that I can do leaves that kind of an impression on other people and helps them in some way, then that's what keeps me going to the next gig.
I certainly understand, I understand the fear, and if I may compliment you, there is talk about this idea of acting, and I'll be exposed, imposter syndrome, right? I'll be exposed for the bad actor, the imposter that I am. I did hear, by the way, that the only people that do not suffer from imposter syndrome are imposters.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
so you're normal. But to
Good.
me, I think the concept of acting is to play a role and be someone you're not. And then in some cases, I think you can see into that person's soul, their being, and see for who they are. And I don't like when I see Saru, and when I've interacted with you and met you, I see more in common than I see apart, in terms
Yeah.
of two different people. There is a kindness, there is a generosity, there is a there is a depth. So good actor, but better person. How about that?
I will take that in. Thank you very much. Thank you.
and and there we are,
Yeah.
actually bumping into each other at South by Southwest. It was very interesting because I was wondering why I paid $650 a night for the Fairmont Hotel, and now I know why. It was so that we would bump into each other.
I had no idea it was that much there. Oh my gosh.
You know what? But it's but I'll tell you, the $45 scotches that I had in the evening were there is something about it. You sip it, and you enjoy it for the excessive price that you paid.
Right. Does it taste better when it's that expensive?
I mean, in my mind, it did.
Right.
So,
Right.
so let's go backwards for a second. And normally I like to play what I call two truths and a lie, with my guests, and um, we won't do that today. Although I was kind of itching to do it with you, because we'll just go to something I had before, which I called fun facts. Because in looking at your bio, and by the way, your bio was created by ChatGPT. Talk about
It was.
data and technology. I know we're going to talk about it as well, but I just went to ChatGPT and I said, I'd like 100-word bio intro for Doug Jones, not the senator, but the other one. And so a couple of things came in which I took out, and here's what I wanted to share. Of course, not only are these this is not AI generated, this is badly photoshopped, I might add, although you are very, very talented. So one of the fun facts about you is that you're a former contortionist.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I actually, it's not former even. I can still put my legs behind my head, and that's all I ever could do. So I wasn't like that position that you Photoshop there. I can't do that, but I can. I could. It's like a one pony trick, a one trick pony. I can put my legs behind my head forward, and that was on my resume as contortionist, and I used that little sight gag in a lot of commercial auditions in my early days as an actor. A lot of walk-on sitcom cameo parts where they needed a sight gag of some sort. So that's but I never traveled with Cirque du Soleil. Yeah.
So you're going to see where this is leading to, because you're also a mime trained artist, at least according to ChatGPT. Now, this is staying within the realm of AI, because again, we're going to talk about technology. This is completely AI generated, which is very interesting. So this is feeding in one of your photos and saying, "Hey, I'd like to see Doug Jones as a mime trained artist." So there's some interesting stuff going on in here. You're debonair. There's a little bit of maybe Joaquin Phoenix. I don't know what's going on as the Joker, but this is not you. This is AI you, Doug.
Wow, that looks like a mime from a horror film, and I don't know where that dimple in the chin came from. I would wish I had one in real life.
Yeah, because you've never acted in any horror films or fantasy films at all.
Maybe I have. Maybe I knew that. I don't know.
So I wanted to chat about these for a couple of reasons, because in terms of you becoming and your journey, your hero's journey to become an actor, I'd love for you to take us back to the beginning of when you, that first spark of when you had this desire, this thought, this dream, or maybe it was thrust upon you, and quite frankly, the role that your physicality, your your ability to be, to move and manipulate your body, the concept of mime, how it all just kind of came together, hopefully at the right place at the right time, for you to become who you are today, and no doubt, who you will be tomorrow.
Well, this my beginning story is a story I've told so many times that I almost bore myself to tears with it. But I did start as a mime in college at Ball State University, and that was a skill set that came with me out to Hollywoodland when I sought being an actor. I When I had my first commercial agent that I got from an acting class who spotted me there, he mime and contortionist was on my resume, and so a lot of the auditions I went on early for commercials involved some kind of physical tomfoolery, some kind of body language or skill set that they would ask for a mime, or clowning, or some kind of something. And uh, so so I actually was very physically aware of myself from head to toe because of the mime training that I had, and the mime performing that I had done. I guess that's the one thing I can boast about, is like I did know myself from head to toe. I didn't like myself from head to toe, but I knew it at least. And So when I started booking TV commercials, the first couple that I was a dancing mummy for Southwest Airlines. That was the first thing I ever booked for myself. I was an alien for Worlds of Wonder toys and a doll commercial, and then I was a nerd for Bob's Big Boy. That was my first human role that I got paid for. And then my fourth TV commercial booking was the Mac Tonight campaign for McDonald's, which was the crescent moon head that sang at a piano, "Hey, when the clock strikes, oh." And that ended up being a worldwide commercial campaign that lasted for 3 years. So I did 27 commercials for McDonald's in that time. So that was an early gig that took off, and I was able to buy my first house from McDonald's money. So that was very, very sweet how that came into play. And through that TV commercial campaign, the creature effects designer that made the Moonhead borrowed people from all the creature shops in Los Angeles to work on the campaign when another commercial shoot would come up. He had an operation out of his own garage, so he didn't have a whole staff of people. So when we had a commercial to build up for, and to staff with puppeteers and mold makers and people to fix the Moonhead and operate it and dress me and all that, he would borrow people from renowned creature shops like Stan Winston Studios or Greg Canham Studios or Rick Baker's or Tony Gardner's, Mike Elizalde, like all these big names that had a staff of people. They would borrow people for our commercial shoots. They would work with me for a day or two and go back to those creature shops with a memory of working with that tall, skinny, goofy guy who moved well and didn't complain in the makeup or the costume. That reputation is what got me the next step and the next step. Then at those creature shops all over Los Angeles, they would get, they would do pitches for another movie or TV show that had a creature in it. If there was something tall and skinny, my name would often come up because someone had remembered, oh, I just worked with a guy that looks like that. And so I started getting calls at home instead of through, they were directly calls coming from creature shops to me at home instead. So it's kind of circumventing the agent and casting director, usual route that an actor gets into a project. So that's kind of, I owe most of my career to those creature effects people in the early days that came looking for me and offered me those opportunities without really having to audition for them. But once I was known by them, I don't know if that explains anything or not.
It explains a lot, and so first of all, what I picked up and what I really loved was this idea of, quote, tall, skinny, goofy guy. But you spoke about the R word, reputation. Your reputation was, and you didn't say these words, but reliable, consistent, but really someone who was easy to work with, and that reputation carried you forward and almost kind of created the momentum. I guess the question I wanted to ask you was, did you always embrace you and who you were? Being the tall, skinny, goofy guy, the contortionist, the mime artist, because and when you became, and I don't want to say typecast, but when suddenly that became your container, did you always embrace that container? And did you always embrace it? And if so, kind of like, and if not, have you ever? Like, when did you?
Yeah, well, I had to embrace it. Well, first of all, I have a very distinctive look that's not typical leading man look. So I knew that when I started as an actor that I was going to have to be either scary or funny as a human, and then add prosthetics to that where you're becoming creatures. And scary and funny has been my entire career. Romantic leading man has not been, until you have a director like Guillermo del Toro that took a monster into a romantic story like The Shape of Water, where I was the romantic leading man of the movie, but in a fish suit. So that was an unusual situation. But when I talk about myself that way and say I'm tall, skinny, goofy guy, I have a lot of people react to that going, "Oh, don't put yourself down like that." That is not a put down. I own that with pride. I really do. Not everybody has to be the handsome leading man or the leading lady. You can character people are all over the world and are very successful in life and love and family and career and all that. So no, I'll take my tall, skinny, goofy and run with it. And so I have. So I have embraced that. I used to, when I was a teenager, hate how I looked because I was made fun of by other kids, because that's what kids do. But the first time but as an adult, when I got into the showbiz and took my insecurities of my physicality with me, but my first commercial agent, the first thing she said as she looked at me across the desk when I was having my interview with her was like, "You have such a great look." No one had ever said anything like that to me before. I interpreted that as like, "You look good." No, it wasn't "you look good." You have a good look means that you're very marketable and you have, there's something charactery about you. So I thought, well, gosh, that's, Don Knotts had a good look. Gilligan and Gomer Pyle had good looks for what they did. And so I thought, oh, maybe there was a reason God made me looking like this. It wasn't to be a romantic leading man. It was to do all the things that I've done in the last 38 years as an actor. But the one critical moment where I of self-acceptance was I was sitting in a creature, a prosthetics trailer outside the studio where the X-Files was being filmed. I had been hired to be an alien on a couple episodes of the X-Files. And the creature effects makeup person was walking around me and was looking at me like this. And I was watching him in the mirror, feeling very insecure, like what? And he said, "Has anyone ever told you what a beautiful neck you have?" And I was like, no. If anything, my long, skinny neck was made fun of ruthlessly in high school. I was called the ostrich constantly. I was called the giraffe constantly. And I was very self-conscious about my long, skinny neck. And for someone to say that it was a thing of beauty, and then that was a real 180 turn for me that day. Like, wow, maybe what other people perceive as flaws can be where my beauty lies. And again, I'm going to reference Guillermo del Toro. Now that I've had a relationship with Guillermo del Toro, I've been in a lot of his movies. A running theme in his films is the monster creature that you're looking at is often the one with the most heart and the most natural beauty, and it's the humans that become the monsters. And our bad guys in Del Toro's stories are often a human, and the monster or the creature in the story turns out to be a bit of a hero. So I've learned to embrace what is Dougie Jones.
Well, Dougie Jones, you're getting the second air horn.
Thank you. Thank you.
Early on 2020, I had a guest on my show, and David Rendell, I cite this, I talk about this all the time, and he said, when I was young, he had a lot of energy, shall we say, so I wouldn't sit still, and they all told me at school for me to sit still, and I kept on talking all the time, and they told me to shut up, and I was always out of control, and they always try to control me and make me conform. He said, today I'm a keynote speaker. I stand up in front of people and I don't stop talking. I do my own thing, and I don't stop moving around. And he said something, and it just stuck with me forever. He said, instead of trying to turn the weakness into a strength, he said, what if the weakness is the strength?
Right.
And so, look, I don't know about this character.
Yeah. Again, that's not a leading man. That's a scary character from Pan's Labyrinth, right?
But what an incredible movie! And when I look at your filmography, whether it's Pan's Labyrinth, whether it's Hellboy, I mean, these are, and Star Trek, Shape of Water. I mean, to call them, they're cult movies, they're community movies, they're statements as well. How fortunate you must be to have been a part of these projects, because each one of them has impacted. And we were talking earlier in the virtual green room with sound, and I was saying I cried like a baby watching Pan's Labyrinth on a flight. I think I was flying to Australia. It was a long flight to be sitting next to me crying like a baby. Just what were the experiences like? I mean, when you are in these movies, do you feel that you're a part of something, or is it, can you sense what they might become, or what you're actually making at the time?
Yeah, I mean, I do now. Now that I've been, again, acting for 38 years, you get reading a script and knowing who's going to be directing it, and having a talk with that director to get their vision for it and how they're going to tell the story, and you do get an idea of where it's going to go and how impactful this project might be. So especially, again, Guillermo del Toro, having done 6 films with him, and been a guest on his TV series The Strain, I have quite a good idea of what's going to come out of him. And so when I saw the script for Pan's Labyrinth, when I saw the script for The Shape of Water, he wrote both scripts, and knowing that he was going to be directing what I just read, it was like I had a great idea. Oh my gosh, this is, well, when I wiped tears away when I read the Pan's Labyrinth script on the last page. I'm like, okay, that's going to be a gorgeous piece. And it turned out to be at the Oscars with 6 nominations and 3 wins. And then The Shape of Water, years later, I think it was 11 years later, he told me the story verbally. We were actually working on Crimson Peak at the time, and I was 2 of his ghost ladies in Crimson Peak. And a day I had off, he asked me to come to the studio and at lunchtime and visit him in his office, at the production office. So because he wanted to talk to me. I was like, what, am I being sent up to the principal's office? Am I in trouble? So when I got to his office, Ed, come in, Dougie, shut the door. And then just the 2 of us sitting there, and he wanted to tell me the next movie he wanted to mount up after Crimson Peak. And that was, so he mentioned The Shape of Water, mentioned that he wanted me to play a fish man again. I'd already done that in the Hellboy movies, and I thought, was there a connection? Nope, no connection. Different story, different time, different thing. Okay, so then he told me the entire story of Shape of Water. He didn't have a script written for Shape of Water yet. So me just sitting there like this, having story time with Guillermo del Toro while he rattled off this beautiful tale, and I was just envisioning what it could become. And I said to him that day, with no script, having seen nothing but other than hearing him talk about the story in his mind, I said, "This is your next trip to the Oscars." And boy, did I call that one. 13 nominations and 4 wins, including Best Director for him and Best Picture, with a monster on the cover. That doesn't happen at the Oscars. And so having the opportunity to play that monster on the cover of a Best Picture winner, that's like mind blowing to me. And it's an opportunity I never thought would happen. When you see
And
yourself.
you got to be the leading man, the leading
Right.
fish.
Another thing I thought would never happen. Exactly.
So what a great story. And I in looking back and thinking forward, even I was driving my daughter to the airport this morning, and I said, I've got Doug Jones coming on the show today, and mentioned Pan's Labyrinth, and she said, the faun, El Fauno?
El Fauno. Mm-hmm.
El Fauno. And it's funny how to her you are El Fauno, to me you're Saru, and each one is just another piece of a puzzle. Each one is another part of this beautiful, intricate tapestry. And when I asked you what are some of the things you wanted to talk about, one of the things was aging and changing priorities. The funny thing is, when I wrote I as you can tell, I just say it off the cuff, so I don't read it. But my soliloquy, Live Long and Prosper, in many respects, I see now was aging, live long, and prosper, which is the idea of priorities. Well, what does it mean to prosper? So that was my take on aging and changing priorities. What's your take?
Yeah, well, like I said, once I crossed the threshold of 60, and my next birthday is 64 next month. You do. Being in my 20s and strive again, very, very self-absorbed time of life, and as it we kind of need to be as we're looking at our future and how do we get there, and me strive, and I think family has become like the number one thing here on this earth for me. Whereas before I have my career and the fear of losing it, in my early days, and the fear that if I don't do this next thing, I'll be forgotten. I have missed family weddings, funerals, anniversaries, birthdays for decades. And now I'm at a place where it's like, you know what? Everything else can wait because the family comes first now. I even had a rather large movie opportunity happen recently. It's not decided yet, but I have a family reunion with some cousins I haven't seen in over 40 years, happening in Indiana in June. And this movie wants to shoot over June, and it would take me away. And I'm like, I don't really, I would kind of rather see my family, because, you talk about what you take to your deathbed with you and what you remember and what means something to you as you, reevaluate your life and think back. I'm looking so forward to catching up with these cousins that I knew as kids and teenagers. And now that we're all in our 60s, it's going to be mind blowing to catch up with them and find out what they've been through, what their loves and fears have been over the years, what their successes and triumphs and failures have been. We're going to talk. I mean, you find out those things when you get back with people you haven't seen in that long. And I'm just itching to do that. That's more important to me than this big movie was. So that's a shift that I sat back and thought, oh my gosh, a 25-year-old Doug would have never made this decision, or would have never. Yeah, if the movie comes through, I now can have the confidence to say, yes, I'll say yes to this. But here's a time frame, reunion travel. That's a time frame on the calendar that I'm not going to give up. So if you want to book me in this movie, you got to book it before and after those dates, and then I'm happy to do your movie. that's a conversation that I'm really confident to have now. But I used to not be. I'd be like, okay, everything goes away for the job, and now it's like, now the job isn't the. They can work around me, and if they can't, then that's okay. I'm okay.
Well, I certainly hope it works out, and I suspect it might. To me, I think people that are watching, certainly the first part of our conversation was about growing into yourself, loving yourself, becoming comfortable within your own skin, whether that's amphibious or not. That was the one part. But then there's another part, which is, I think this idea that comes from, there's a self-confidence, which in part comes down to success. You're able to turn the movie down, or at least to say, these are my priorities. But then there's another part of it, which is just this ability to know who you are. It's identity. And I don't know that identity has to be something that you check at the door only for when you're of a certain ilk or success or status. And I feel that hopefully that people are watching are thinking, you got to know who you are, to thine own self be true, and let that become, I guess, the guiding light that informs all the decisions in your life, so that you don't actually have to look back with any form of regret.
I would agree. Yeah. And yet at the same time, that question comes up all the time. If you could look, if there's one thing you could go back in time and change, what would that be? And I'm like, I'm very comfortable with the answer that I don't know that I would change anything. I've made some major mistakes in life, and suffered repercussions from them. But how I sit here today and who I am today is a product of all of those decisions and all of those choices over life. So where I'm at today, I don't hate who I am today. So I don't know that life is full of ups and downs and mistakes and successful choices. So if I went back in time, I'd probably make a different mistake if I corrected the one that I'm thinking of. Whatever, right?
I'm pretty sure you would actually have the ability to go back in time as Saru.
Damn it!
But I mean, it's been, or go forward in time for people that have been watching. I had Dan Pink on my show a while ago, and he wrote a book called Regrets: How Looking Back Moves Us Forward. We joked, there was one person who got a tattoo on their body, but they misspelt it, so it said no regrets.
I've seen that picture. Yes.
Then there was someone who got a tattoo that said no regrets, and then they regretted it and wanted to take it off. Just this week, I lectured to a bunch of students at one of their colleges in Connecticut, locally in Connecticut, and I kind of presented the 10 not pivots, but moments in my life where my trajectory, my career took a different turn, and many of them involved decisions I made that didn't work out, or decisions I never made that might have worked out. And so there was a kind of like it was a little bit wistful and introspective as well. But I have to say that at the end of the day, everything brought me to this moment, to this, to the two of us even having this conversation today. And for that, there's only one word that I can express, which is gratitude.
Yeah. I would say that and if the pandemic taught me anything, which I guess is what you said when you started this podcast, if the pandemic taught me anything, it was to reassess priorities and, what's important, what sustains you, and that's why, again, family and friends who are like family became like just at the top of the heap for all that, yeah.
Well, I wonder if maybe there's one if there's one regret that we both might have. Could it be electronics? I mean, I was one of the first bloggers, podcasters in the world. I was right there at the dawn of social media. I even wrote a book about it and didn't even call it social media because it didn't exist yet. I called it communal marketing to and through communities. And now, if I could go back and do it all over again, I I think I would. I think I would do things differently. I think the great level of playing fields hasn't proven to be that democratizing. So
Yeah.
that's my feeling. And so what about presence in your family reunion that you go to? How many people will be deep into their phones versus being able to stare at your beautiful neck? Is my question.
Right. Well, I think the older generation, but where there's going to be several generations there. I'm going to be meeting like kids and kids of kids that I've never met before. The younger generations are probably going to have a device in their hand. That's what kids do now. I think electronics have been a huge blessing and a huge curse all at the same time, honestly, on all of us, on society, and because electronics are enabling us to do this right now. I'm sitting in my own house, and we're worlds apart. But we're still communicating, and we're broadcasting to a bunch of people.
Well, barely. I mean, based on the sound, based on the tech that we had. But yes.
Yeah. And people are watching because they have a device too. So electronics have been a great blessing. And again, during a pandemic, or when that happened, we could stay connected through these devices. A lot of the times I'm on location shoots. Like when I was shooting Star Trek Discovery, I was up in Toronto for about 8-9 months at a time, and I could stay connected to home through a device doing FaceTime, and huge blessing, my gosh. But it's also turned a lot of us into zombies. I've noticed this recently. More recently, I've been noticing facial expressions and taking visual cues off of other people has been dulled down a little bit. I find I'm very expressive. I make a lot of facial expressions, a lot of gestures. I do a lot of visual communication. And when you are talking to someone who is doing this all the time and, LOLing and using emojis of all different expressions, but their own face isn't working during all of that, right? Oh, that's really funny. Oh, that makes me so mad. Nothing's changing, right? When they're on the device. And so you get that person then to now come out in public and meet you in person, and you're going, "Hi, how are you?" And they're going, "Oh, pretty good."
LOL.
Yeah, LOL. That's really funny. And I'm doing, armpit fart. Hey, what up? And they're like, "Yeah, that's really funny." I think that we're losing a piece of communication. Well, in real life, real human to human interaction, we're missing a little bit of it because that device has trained us to be just completely deadpan all day while we're interacting with people on the device. I don't want to lose that piece of communication. I really don't.
I got a hack. I got a little tip, especially in virtual communications in the Zoom enabled world. Someone taught this to me, and I use it all the time, which is called 3 words: hide self view. And so typically, I don't know about you, but typically when I end up on one of these Zoom type of calls, I end up staring at myself, which is not to say that I'm Icarus. I mean, also, face for radio,
Yeah.
face for radio, this guy. But that's helped me be a little bit more present and focus on the other person, as opposed to, for whatever reason, gazing, at this, at this ugly mug.
Yeah.
So, I wish I could hide self-view on this, but I can't.
I know. I know.
So Doug, we've spoken about a lot of things. We've spoken about this idea of sticking your neck out. You told me that you were once called giraffe. I tell you who does like necks is Nosferatu.
Yeah.
And so it turns out, I mean, by the way, there was a movie when I was young, and I'm not a lot, but a little bit younger than you, and Salem's Lot, and when Dracula or Nosferatu is portrayed this way, the lemon drop, I can think of nothing more chilling and nothing more scary. So, tell us a little bit about the movie coming up.
Yeah, I did. I did play the title character of Nosferatu in a remake of the 1922 silent film where Max Schreck played the title character, Nosferatu, also known as Count Orlok. The remake that we did, it has been many years in the making. It was done on an independent budget, so so that means it had a lot of stops and starts along the way in pre-production, real production, post-production. It's taken years, many years. There is a finished product now that we had test audience screenings for in Detroit and Dallas. It went very, very well. And that was just recently. In November, we had those screenings. So that's the first time anyone has seen the finished movie. The concept is that it's the same exact story as the silent film from 1922, scene for scene, the same movie. Only with sound and dialogue and musical score, all of those things, and new actors. So we actors were filmed in a lot of green screen situations. Every frame of this movie has a green screen element to it, and what fills in that green screen is the original film backdrop. So that means that I got to play in the same rooms and outdoor settings as Max Schreck did in the original movie, because they pulled it from the original movie and then superimpose it into ours. So it's a combination of new movie, old movie together. And that's why we did scene for scene, because we wanted to match, we're using the old movie, we wanted to honor the old movie and the story that it told. With the dialogue, silent films are kind of like, you have a lot of like people moving around and doing things, and then a dialogue card comes up with very little dialogue on it, right? So you might have like, and then this card comes up that says, "Yes, mother," and you're like, "Well, I think they said more than that." So that what was really good about this script is it told the story that you visually saw in the silent film, and it stayed very true to it. So the writing was well done. Writer director David Lee Fishers, who put this together, and he's also from the video game world. So he had the technology skills to combine old movie, new movie. But post-production took forever because every frame of this movie needed work, digital effects work. So that's finally done. But now it's a matter of distribution. Where do they sell it? How do they sell it? So I'm not involved with any of that. The producers are. I was just an actor for hire, but it's very exciting. It's a role. It was my dream role. That was the one bucket list. Like if we had to go into a crazy makeup one more time, would it be what would be the ultimate? And it was I hadn't played that particular vampire before, and he
and that way, playing that vampire that way,
right? So
the lemon drop.
Yeah, I'm very happy with how it came out, and so I can't wait for the public to see the finished product wherever we can get it to. Whether probably wouldn't have a theatrical run other than like a art house limited
like
release.
indie or
probably right, but it has a great cast too. The object of my desire, the lady who plays Ellen in the movie is Sarah Carter. She was a series regular with me on Falling Skies, that post-apocalyptic TV show on TNT years ago. And we also have cameos by Thomas Nicholas, who was in the American Pie movies. We have a cameo by Voltaire, who's a gothic musician who's very popular out there. So there's and we have Jolie Fisher in the movie as she's
I saw that.
Carrie Fisher's sister. So yeah, there's it was well done. I love the finished product. So anyway, hope you get to see that soon.
Well, I promise to watch everything you've been in. I have watched a lot of what you've been in. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to make that one because I still have. I slept with a light on for weeks after watching Salem's Lot. My mother had a dinner party. I snuck into the back of the living room while the 35mm reels were busy playing, and that was a bad decision. I still will not. I still will not drive into any town called Salem. That's how afraid I still am.
Wow!
So
Wow!
I'm working on it. I think it's Salem, New Hampshire, or it's somewhere up here in New England. But anyway, so
would it be Salem, Massachusetts? Maybe
it might have been Massachusetts. But well, I mean,
that's the famous Salem where all the witches were, or the witch hunts.
So I'm still staying away from it. Even Salem, Connecticut. Now, this is not green screen, but the final. I mean, this one is just too beautiful to ignore, and I couldn't believe it. And so it turns out that I'm going to call you now Duke Dougie, Duke Doug,
Duke Dougie,
Doug
yeah,
Duke.
take it.
You have a Duke title in the small principality of Sealand, and is it just me? That is Sealand. That whole what is it? An oil rig?
It looks like it. It was a military outpost in World War II. England had put out a bunch of these military defense outposts out in the English Channel. As just a protective measure, and so that what you're looking at there is a platform with quarters, living quarters on top there, and those cement cylinders that go into the water and support it are multiple stories of other things. They have kitchen galleys down there, more sleeping quarters. It housed about 200 and some soldiers back in the day, back in World War II. When World War II ended, England tore down a bunch of these, but this particular one was just outside of English waters, so it was kind of in no man's territory. So there was a fellow who Raymond oh God, I forget his last name, who went out there, planted a flag, and said, "This is my country," and he started a pirate radio station that then broadcast back to the mainland, and they tried to stop him, but it was outside English waters, so they couldn't legally stop him. And so he planted a flag, and it has been Sealand since 1967. And so it's kind of like a statement of, and their Latin statement on their flag is E Maritas, or E Libertad Maritas. Anyway, the freedom of the sea is what it means in English. And so it's kind of his statement of freedom, and I'm going to do this on my own. So it's kind of like gosh, I like that spirit. So he had a son named Michael, and so Prince Michael is now the monarch of because Prince Raymond is now passed, but
it sounds like the Princess Bride. Never mind.
Kind of. So Prince Michael and his he's got kids of his own, about 3 of them. So there are princes and princesses, and so anyway, the Duke title. I wish I could tell that it was something that as a sponsor of and a supporter of them, it was a certain financial what do you call it? Sponsorship, let's say, that got me the title. But I don't know. I'd had a horrible year. I'd had like a rough year when I did this, and it's like, I need to do something to make myself feel better. So I think getting a Duke title will help me a lot.
Well,
so,
you will notice we've upgraded you to Duke Doug Jones, and I was so fascinated. By the way, I know it's punny, I know it's a dad joke, but if they were to do it all over again, would they call it New Zealand? But anyway, that's New Zealand. New Zealand.
Yeah.
But this is what I found, actually. There is a video. Just watch this.
Oh.
Imare Libertas.
Imare Libertas. There it is. And yes, so now, by the way, I outrank all of those titles you just saw because
I saw that.
Yeah, Duke is the highest you can go as a non royal there and so I and with Duke, I think this is what appealed to me is now I unlike the other titles available, I can be called Your Grace. So I kind of wanted to be His Grace Douglas Jones, Duke of Sealand. Yeah, that kind of rings happy in my head.
Well, in Game of Thrones, like I'm going to say, you have been graceful with your time, Your Grace, Duke Doug Jones, in terms of coming in, and we certainly riffed on a whole bunch of different things. Of course, the irony of ironies. Well, we had we had our own silent movie right at the beginning. Never mind Nosferatu. But I feel like we've come full circle. And it's weird because even though I'm a fan of yours and a bit of a Trekkie, we didn't even discuss as much as we could have Star Trek. But I think, Star Trek just lives in all of us. And you are currently in the final season. Say it isn't so, Duke Dougie. But what an experience this must have been. The final season, never ever say final season, of Star Trek Discovery is airing now every single Thursday on Paramount Plus, and I'm sure it's just been a incredible experience for you.
It has been for sure. I have loved playing Saru for these 5 seasons, and my storyline and the growth that he's gone through has been, like I said, it's been personal for me in a lovely way, and seems to resonate with the audience. So I love hearing about all that. Yeah.
He also said, this was the second quote that I found, which is, command is the test. There is no right way to do a wrong thing.
I don't remember saying that either. That's great. Those are great quotes.
and I think there's probably no wrong way to do the right thing. So I think it works both ways.
There you go. Yeah.
Now this could have been ChatGPT doing what's called hallucinating, which is just making up stuff. But we'll have to get our fact checkers to determine exactly what is going on there. Also, you're currently filming What We Do in the Shadows, another final season 6, airing later on FX and Hulu, and of course, just watch your neck. Don't stick your neck out, because Nosferatu, silent or noisy, might be waiting for you. Please look out for this and support it, because, as you know, Doug, distribution, promotion of content today, of storytelling, of movies, is very different to the way it used to be, especially in this day and age of TikTok, etc. So please support this amazing remake.
Yeah. Thank you. I was going to say that What We Do in the Shadows. Yes, filming their final season. I've been a recurring character as Beto Nafanas on that show for all of these seasons. I show up maybe anywhere from 1 to 3 times per season, and this year they've worked me into 4 episodes. So I'm really tickled pink about that, and being a part of that conclusion of a really great run of a very funny show. It's kind of like The Office with vampires, if you haven't seen it yet.
The Office with World's Greatest Boss takes on a whole new meaning as well. Doug, thank you so much for coming in and for just hanging out a little bit. I really love the ability to find out more about, as I call it, the eulogy virtues, which is not to say that you and I are going anywhere anytime soon, versus resume virtues, but boy, oh boy, are your resume virtues like eulogy virtues, because, as I was saying, you've been a part of so many incredible movements, moments, projects, and experiences. I hope you've had a good time being in the studio with me, and I wish you well on everything you do. And last word, I wish it was mine, but it always comes from Chuck Norris, fellow actor, who had this to say about you.
You are Chuck Norris approved.
And we will be back. We will be back soon. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye, Doug.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching the show about hope, positivity, optimism, and if there's time left over, a little bit of marketing with your host, multiple author, and global keynote speaker, Joseph Jaffe. If you like the show, tell a friend or two. Please subscribe to the show, and if you want to get inside news, previews of upcoming guests, and much more, visit josephjaffe.com/subscribe to sign up for the show's newsletter.
And despite the best ministrations of your wife, you still look ugly.